Okay, let's unpack this.
Welcome to the deep dive. Yeah, today we're diving into something pretty fundamental, animal behavior. It's just this incredible masterclass in efficiency, isn't it?
Absolutely. And our mission really is to get under the hood. We want to understand the biology, the evolution behind how animals act.
Right. From those uh, totally hardwired instinct, the things they just do for survival.
All the way to these super complex social games they play, and even how, a tiny bug can find its way across continents using hidden senses.
Exactly. We're talking behavioral biology here, ethology mostly. And the big goal, the thing we keep coming back to, is separating out two main kinds of behavior.
Right. You've got the innate behaviors,
Yeah.
instinct. This is the stuff that's baked into their genes, hardwired.
Super reliable, fast, no messing around with learning something wrong when it's critical. Think reflexes.
Yeah, like a chick pecking for food right after hatching. It just knows.
Precisely. But then, on the other side, you have learned behaviors, and these are, well, flexible, dynamic.
They change based on what happens, right? Experience, the environment.
Exactly. Conditioning, feedback, it lets them adapt. And honestly, understanding how instinct and learning play together, that explains, well, almost everything an animal does.
Okay, so let's start with that hardwired stuff. Innate survival. Even just basic movement, that's often instinct, right? How do we sort out the different kinds?
Well, a key difference is direction. Akinesis.
Yeah.
This is basically undirected movement. The animal senses something it doesn't like, say it's too hot or too dry.
And it just starts moving around more, hoping to stumble into a better spot.
Pretty much. Woodlice do this. If it's uncomfortable, they speed up. That's orthokinesis. Or they might turn more frequently clinokinesis. They aren't aiming anywhere specific, just increasing the odds of leaving the bad spot.
Okay, so kinesis is like flailing until things get better.
Kinda, yeah. Compare that with taxes. Now that's directed movement. Towards something good or away from something bad.
So they actually know where they're going.
They have a direction relative to the stimulus. Think phototaxis moving towards light, or chemotaxis moving towards a chemical. There's this single-celled organism, Tetratamina thermophila.
Okay.
It uses its little hairs, its cilia, to swim directly up the concentration gradient if it detects a chemical it likes. It's purposeful.
Aimed.
Got it. Panicking versus aiming, that helps.
Yeah.
So building on that hardwiring idea, you get these things called fixed action patterns, or FAPs.
Ah, yes, FAPs. These are fascinating. It's a whole sequence of behaviors. Once triggered by a specific stimulus.
Like a signpost.
Exactly, sign stimulus.
Yeah.
Once triggered, the entire sequence runs its course. Automatically. To completion.
Even if the thing that triggered it disappears halfway through.
Even then, they can't stop it. The classic example, the three-spined stickleback fish. The males get super aggressive towards other males during breeding season.
And the trigger is the red belly other males have.
Right. But researchers found these males will attack anything with a red underside. Doesn't have to look like a fish at all. A lump of wax with a red bottom, attack. Wow. So it's a very simple, almost crude trigger for a complex response. But wait, if they can't stop, isn't that a bit, well, dangerous if things change?
It absolutely highlights the trade-off. Instinct is reliable, efficient for crucial stuff, but it lacks flexibility. Evolution, in these cases, has basically bet that the guaranteed action is more important than adapting mid-sequence.
That rigidity makes sense then, especially when you think about huge predictable events like
Yeah,
migration.
exactly. This massive seasonal movement. It's often an innate response to completely predictable changes.
Yeah.
Like seasons, resource availability.
And the scales are just mind-boggling. Emperor penguins walking over 60 miles.
Oh, wildebeest traveling, what, 1,800 miles? Just incredible journeys.
But it's not always a must-do thing, is it?
No, that's interesting too. Some migration is obligate, they always do it, but some is facultative, like with tundra owls. They only migrate south if their food, like lemmings, is scarce up north, if there's plenty of food. They save the energy and stay put.
Smart. And whether it's an 1,800-mile trek or just looking for lunch in the next field, the underlying principle is foraging, right? Getting the most energy for the least effort.
Optimal foraging theory, yes. Natural selection pushes behaviors towards that efficient balance. Maximize gain, minimize cost.
You see that really clearly in tough environments like deserts. How do reptiles cope there?
Yeah, desert reptiles face huge challenges. Extreme heat, cold nights, not much water or food. Their survival kit is largely behavioral thermoregulation.
Meaning they use actions to control their temperature.
Exactly. Not just relying on internal physiology. They bask in the sun to warm up, they burrow underground to escape the heat or cold, they seek out shady
They
microhabitats.
even change when they're active, right? Hunting at dawn or dusk.
Yes, shifting their temporal activity. And here's where you really see that trade-off clearly. Imagine a lizard finds a spot with lots of insects. Great. But it's in direct, scorching midday sun.
Staying there to eat means overheating, potentially dying.
Right, so the cost thermoregulation might outweigh the benefit food. Its behavior becomes this constant calculation. Balance body temperature needs against the need for resources like food or water.
That efficiency principle, managing costs and benefits, it feels like a natural lead-in to social behavior. Groups need to coordinate, share info through communication signals.
Absolutely. Communication is vital, and it takes many forms: visual, auditory, tactile, and sometimes quite subtle chemical signals, pheromones.
Right, those chemical messages, usually for things like marking territory, warning of danger, or attracting mates.
Very common for attracting mates, yes, and crucial in social insects, coordinating the whole colony.
Didn't we talk about a possible human example once? Something about sweat and cycles?
Ah, yes, the axillary steroids research.
Hmm.
The idea was these chemicals, potentially acting like pheromones, might influence women's menstrual cycles to synchronize. It's a definitely controversial area in human research.
Right, debated. But it shows chemical signaling might be a hidden layer even for us.
It's certainly a powerful channel across the animal kingdom. Then you have the much more obvious signals, like big courtship displays.
Peacock's tail, or like elaborate dances birds do.
Exactly, ritualized visual displays, designed to impress, to show off fitness. And again, that rigidity pops up. Remember the stickleback, FAP? Courtship displays are often similar. If a common stork, say, messes up one step in its synchronized dance,
The whole thing's off, no mating.
often, yes,
Hmm.
the signal has to be perfect. It proves they have the right stuff.
And that ties into aggressive displays too, like a dog snarling or a gorilla chest beating. We think fight, but you're saying maybe not.
Often the goal is to avoid a fight. These displays communicate the animal's willingness, its ability, maybe even bluffing about its ability to fight.
So the other guy can assess, is this worth it?
Precisely. It's a risk assessment. Fighting is costly. You can get injured, waste energy.
Well,
The display is a negotiation to settle dominance or territory without that physical cost.
this idea of cost and benefit, especially within a group, brings up that huge question in biology: altruism. Why help someone else at your own expense?
The altruism debate. The classic. Why does a meerkat stand guard, putting itself at risk? Why do worker bees stay sterile and serve the queen?
Seems counterintuitive for survival of the fittest.
Well, the dominant explanation comes from thinking about genes, not just individuals. The selfish gene theory, popularized by Richard Dawkins, the idea is that the behavior isn't truly selfless if it helps relatives.
Because relatives share many of the same genes.
Exactly. By helping your sibling or offspring survive and reproduce, you're indirectly helping copies of your own genes get passed on. This boosts your inclusive fitness. Parental care is the most obvious example. The structure of ant or bee colonies, too.
Okay, that makes sense for family, but what about helping unrelated individuals, like monkeys grooming each other? They aren't always related, are they?
No, often they aren't. That's where reciprocal altruism comes in. It's more like, I'll scratch your back now if you scratch mine later.
So it relies on future payback.
Yes. And for that system to work, you need a few conditions. Animals have to interact repeatedly, they need to recognize each other, and crucially, they need to be able to detect and somehow punish cheaters individuals who take the help but never give it back.
It sounds complex to maintain.
It is. And it leads to that sociobiology controversy you mentioned earlier. Some argue that even reciprocal altruism isn't pure altruism because there's always an expectation, however delayed, of a return benefit. Defining true altruism is tricky.
Fascinating. Okay, shifting from social strategies to how reproduction itself is structured. Mating systems. These seem pretty innate, too.
Very much so. You have monogamy, one male, one female, at least for a breeding season, like gray wolves, often linked to situations where offspring survival really needs help from both parents.
Right, the male assistance hypothesis.
Exactly. Or mate guarding, where a male sticks with one female to ensure paternity. Then the most common system in mammals is polygyny.
One male, multiple females.
Right. This often arises when males can control access to resources females need, like the honey guide defending beehives, or when males defend groups of females directly, like in elephant fuel harems, or leak systems, where males just display and females choose.
And the flip side, which is much rarer.
Polyandry. One female, multiple males. It's uncommon, but you see it, particularly where sex roles are reversed. Think pipefish or seahorses. The female produces eggs, but the male takes care of them, often in a brood patch. So the female benefits from mating with multiple males.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of the hardwired stuff. Instincts, FAPs, basic drives. Now let's get into the other side of the coin, learned behaviors, the
Yeah.
flexible stuff.
Right, this is where animals adapt within their lifetimes,
Yeah.
and learning happens on different levels. The simplest is probably habituation.
That's just learning to ignore things.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
If a stimulus happens over and over and nothing bad or good ever follows it, the animal stops wasting energy responding. Prairie dogs hear footsteps all the time near trails. If those footsteps never mean danger, they eventually ignore them.
Saves energy, saves attention for real threats. Makes sense. What about imprinting? That seems different, very quick.
Very different, yes. Imprinting is this super rapid learning that happens only during a specific, sensitive period, usually very early in life.
Like ducklings following the first big moving thing they see.
That's the classic example. They hatch an imprint on the first potential parent figure. Usually it's their mother. But, Conrad Lorenz famously had Gosling's imprint on him. They form that powerful attachment almost instantly.
Okay, so habituation is slow fading. Imprinting is instant locking on. What about learning connections between things?
Now we're getting into conditioned behaviors or associative learning, linking things together. The really famous one is classical conditioning.
Pavlov's dogs.
Pavlov's dogs, indeed. He showed you could take a neutral stimulus, like a bell, that normally means nothing to the dog in terms of food.
And pair it with something that does mean something, like the food itself, which makes the dog salivate naturally.
Exactly. Ring the bell. Present the food. Ring the bell, present the food. After enough pairings, the dog starts salivating just at the sound of the bell, even before the food arrives. It's learned in association. Bell,
Yeah.
food is coming.
Linking two stimuli. And the other main type.
Operant conditioning. This is learning through consequences. Behavior is modified by rewards or punishments.
Ah, like training. If my dog sits and I give it a treat.
That's positive reinforcement. The treat increases the likelihood the dog will sit again. B.F. Skinner's work with rats in Skinner boxes is the classic laboratory example. Rats learn to press a lever to get a food pellet. Or dolphins learning complex tricks for fish rewards.
So classical is linking stimuli. Operant is linking behavior to outcomes. Got it.
Absolutely.
But animals can do more than just react or learn simple associations, right? They seem to.
Absolutely. That's the leap to cognitive learning. This involves manipulating information mentally, problem solving, insight, maybe even abstract thought.
This is where those clever chimpanzee studies come in.
Wolfgang Kuller's work, yes. He put bananas just out of reach of chimps, with some boxes scattered around. The chimps didn't just randomly try things. They seemed to, assess the situation.
And then suddenly stack the boxes.
Exactly. They appeared to have a moment of insight, visualizing the solution boxes stacked make a platform before they actually perform the actions. That suggests mental manipulation, not just trial and error.
And the rats in mazes showed something similar, more than just conditioning.
E.C. Tolman's experiments, yeah. He argued rats weren't just learning a sequence of turns, left, right, left.
Yeah.
They were building a cognitive map, a mental representation of the maze's overall layout.
How did he show that?
If he blocked a learned route, rats didn't just give up. They'd quickly figure out a new detour, one they'd never taken before, suggesting they understood the spatial relationships within the maze. They had an internal map, not just a list of commands.
Wow, okay, an internal map. Here's where it gets really interesting, doesn't it? How does that map translate to navigating huge distances, like in migration? True navigation.
Right. Moving towards a specific place, often thousands of miles away, without familiar landmarks for much of the journey. It's incredible.
How on earth did they do it?
It's often described as a two-step process. Having a map, knowing where you are relative to your goal, and a compass, knowing which way to go. And they use some amazing environmental cues for that compass.
Like the sun, the celestial compass.
The sun is a major one for many daytime migrants, birds, butterflies. But it's tricky, right?
Because the sun moves across the sky during the day.
Exactly. So the animal can't just fly towards the sun. It needs an internal clock, a circadian rhythm to know what time it is. Then it can compensate for the sun's movement and maintain a constant compass direction.
That's some serious internal calculation. What about at night or on cloudy days?
At night, many birds switch to using a star compass. They learn the pattern of star rotation around the North Star, or the southern equivalent, to find north or south.
Okay, but clouds block stars too. And what if you're deep underwater? No sun or stars there?
Then they often rely on magnetoreception, sensing the Earth's magnetic field.
Like having a built-in compass needle?
Sort of. The exact mechanism is still debated. One idea involves tiny crystals of magnetite in their cells, literally acting like compass needles. Another, frankly mind-bending hypothesis involves quantum mechanics, chemical reactions in the eye that are sensitive to magnetic fields through electron spin.
Quantum biology, wow. Okay, sun, stars, magnetic fields. What about smell? Can they navigate by odor plumes?
They can, but it's really challenging. Air and water currents make odor signals patchy and intermittent. It's not like following a steady trail.
So how do they manage?
They seem to integrate the chemical signal, chemotaxis, with the physical flow of the air or water, so sensing the wind direction, anemotaxis, or water current, rheotaxis. When they detect a puff of the target odor, they tend to surge upwind or upcurrent. It's like zigzagging towards the source based on intermittent hits. Moths finding mates, crabs finding food. They use this.
Triangulating smell and flow. Incredible. Okay, coordinating all these different senses and compasses, calculating direction, remembering the goal. That must need a serious bit of brain power, even in an insect. Where does this happen?
The spotlight is increasingly falling on a structure called the central complex, or CX. It's this amazing, quite ancient part of the insect brain. Think of it as their internal GPS, flight computer, and navigation hub, all rolled into one.
The central complex. So how does this little structure keep track of, say, which way the ant is facing?
It has specialized neurons that encode the current heading. Their activity creates a bump of neural firing that literally represents the animal's orientation in space, like a compass needle on a dial. This bump moves as the animal turns.
How does it stay accurate?
It integrates cues. It takes input from the eyes, especially polarized light from the sky, which gives a very reliable compass cue, but also internal cues from the legs, like step counting in ants or optic flow in bees. It's constantly updating based on external signals and self-motion. It uses a kind of neural network called a ring attractor to maintain that heading information stably.
Okay, so it knows I am facing this way, but how does it know the way it needs to go? The direction home, the home vector.
That's the integration part. In insects that navigate by path integration, keeping track of how far and in what direction they traveled, the CX seems to store this information.
Like the ant counting its steps.
Exactly. Ants use a step counter. Bees use the apparent speed of the ground moving beneath them, optic flow. The CX integrates this distance information with the direction information from the heading cells. Specific neurons seem to act like memory cells, accumulating activity that represents the net displacement from the starting point, essentially, the vector pointing back home.
Wow, so it computes the return journey constantly, and then it has to use that information to actually steer.
Right. Other neurons in the CX, like CPU1 neurons, seem to compare the current heading, where I'm facing, with the desired heading, where I want to go, like the home vector. The difference between these generates an error signal.
Which tells the legs or wings which way to turn.
Precisely. This error signal is sent out from the CX to motor control centers, like the lateral accessory lobes, LAL, initiating the turn. Research on cockroaches has even shown that the activity in certain CX neurons doesn't just correlate with movement, it predicts and seems to directly cause the imminent turns and forward motion. It's the command center.
Amazing. A complete navigation system in that tiny brain. Okay, for our last segment, let's switch gears a bit to something humans have done forever, using animal behavior to try and predict the weather.
Ah, yes, weather lore. It's filled with animal and plant signs, and, well, some are more reliable than others. Often what look like prediction is actually a very sensitive reaction to current or imminent conditions.
Like plants. The scarlet pimpernel flower, the poor man's weather glass, closes before rain.
It closes when the air gets damp, yes. Because high humidity often precedes rain, it looks predictive. But it's reacting to the moisture already in the air. It opens when dry air evaporates too quickly, which usually happens on fine days. Dandelions are similar. They only release seeds when it's dry enough for them to fly well.
So good indicators, but not crystal balls. What about animals? People say if rabbits feed during the day, rain is coming.
The thinking now is that rain dampens sound and washes away scent trails. Rabbits rely heavily on hearing and smell to detect predators at night. So on damp days or when rain is imminent, it might be safer for them to rely more on eyesight and feed during daylight. They're reacting to the conditions, not forecasting the storm itself.
Okay, that makes sense. Same for moles, building big hills before winter.
Molehill size is more likely linked to the earthworm supply, which is affected by soil moisture and temperature. They do dig deeper burrow systems in late autumn to get below the frost line where worms retreat for winter. So that activity signals preparation for cold, but not necessarily predicting the severity of the winter months ahead.
Right. And the classic one, swallows flying low means rain.
That's actually a pretty decent indicator, but again, it's reactive. Weather fronts, especially cold fronts bringing rain, often cause changes in air pressure and turbulence near the ground.
Which affects insects.
Exactly. It forces small flying insects lower. Swallows, swifts, martins. They feed on these insects, so they fly lower because their food is lower. The air movements causing the insects to fly low often do lead to showers shortly after. The birds are following dinner, not reading the barometer.
And wildebeest predicting rain.
They are masters of following the rain. They have an incredible ability to sense distant thunder and see thunderclouds, and they literally chase these storms across the plains to get to the fresh grass that sprouts immediately after the rain. Following, not predicting.
Okay, so most of these are reactions. Is there any animal behavior that genuinely seems predictive about weather or seasons?
Well, there's one strategy that really stands out because it has to be predictive. The blue tits breeding cycle.
The little bird, how so?
Think about it. Their chicks absolutely rely on a massive boom of caterpillars that happens in spring, usually on oak trees. But the blue tit has to build its nest, lay its eggs, and incubate them before that caterpillar peak arrives.
So the chicks hatch just when the food is most abundant. That timing has to be perfect. But the eggs are laid maybe a month before the caterpillars really explode.
Exactly. They have to commit to nesting well in advance. They can't wait and see if it's going to be a good caterpillar year. They have to somehow predict it.
How on earth do they do that?
The best evidence suggests it's linked to the timing of bud burst on the trees and the appearance of the very first earliest insects of spring. The male blue tit's courtship feeding behavior, bringing food to the female, seems to ramp up in response to these early cues.
So the amount or timing of that courtship feeding signals to the female. Okay, spring is progressing at this rate. Lay the eggs now to hit the caterpillar peak.
That seems to be the mechanism. It's not magic, it's an incredibly fine-tuned sensitivity to the very first indicators of spring's progression, allowing them to synchronize their nesting with a future food boom. It's a biological forecast based on subtle, early cues.
That's truly remarkable. Okay, so what does this all mean?
Well, we've journeyed from the absolute bedrock of survival, those innate, hardwired behaviors like reflexes and FAPs, through complex social strategies, mating systems.
And then into the world of learning, from simply ignoring things to complex conditioning, and even those cognitive leaps like insight and mental maps.
And we saw how incredibly sophisticated navigation can be, even in insects, using everything from the sun and stars to magnetic fields and smell, all coordinated by that amazing central complex. It really rivals our own brains in some ways for specific tasks.
Which leaves us with a final thought, maybe something a bit provocative for you to consider.
Think about it. A monarch butterfly navigates maybe 3,000 kilometers using a time-compensated sun compass. A dung beetle keeps a straight line using the faint polarized light of the Milky Way. These animals rely on simple, incredibly stable environmental cues and elegant neural mechanisms.
So the question is, does our own highly evolved complex capacity for cognitive learning, for thinking and rethinking and analyzing, does it sometimes get in the way? Do we perhaps overcomplicate things and miss the power and reliability of those simple, stable cues for finding our way?
Are we in all our human complexity sometimes less efficient navigators than the dung beetle following the stars? Something to think about.